Small-scale biorefining solutions overview and challenges. Why do we even want to tackle it? Please move forward. Okay, so I will talk about the concept, the relevance, the reference case, the partners that are there on either the resource side, the technology side, and of course on the uptake side, the results that are there, the challenges, the general project design, and how we want to tackle the first new Slovenian pilot steel biorefinery. Okay, please move forward. Okay. So we've been hearing a lot about different biomass resources over the course of the webinar, and Sabina has nicely presented what is the state of technology and the state of play when it comes to biorefining in Europe and also globally, by that matter, nowadays. But as you've seen, as you might have tracked from the presentation before, the idea is that most of the biorefineries are mostly focused on energy and biofuel exploitation. That's one of the challenges. And the second one is that the economy of scale is often dictating whether a biorefinery is feasible at all or not. And this is the so-called Swedish or the Nordic type of biorefinery, where the biorefining is appended to let's say a paper and pulp mill or a paper and pulp company. We, for example, not just Slovenia, but if you look at the broader region, southeastern, are facing the challenge of either not having the appropriate technology deployed, which could serve for the sector coupling or industrial symbiosis in this case. So we have to also tend to the local-to-local concept, meaning that there's a known a circle of distance in which the material can be exploited with a negative or at least net zero GHG footprint, meaning that even if you are producing a biomaterial or a biochemical and then you are transporting it from one continent to the other, there's little that you've actually done. And of course, what we've seen in the Slovenian case, and this is often also the case for other such let's say technology cases in the region, is that when it comes to lignocellulosics, the biomass resource fractionation is the main challenge to be tackled technologically, logistically, because you'll have companies on the downstream which have a strong market pool, especially nowadays for the bio-based products, and you'll have you will compete for the resource, that's clear, with the present mostly energetic exploitation, but nonetheless still you are facing the bottleneck, as in Slovenia the resource can be considered more abundant than in some other territories. Okay, can you please move forward? So the relevance, especially for the regions where the biomass, the waste or residual biomass is underexploited, is of course where the biorefining should be positioned. Basically along the value chain of other processing industries, where the biomass is basically converted, and of course the biorefining would tend for the waste or residual biomass. So basically in Slovenia, the way we have the situation right now is there's strong industrial structure, and that's pushing the biorefining and bio-based materials deployment. But on the other hand, there's also a strong knowledge base on material development and engineering, but still you need to have material to tackle. There's a gap, and this gap is substantially big for the possibilities for valorization of the available feedstock. Can you please move forward? Okay, this is the way the situation looks like right now, and this is also what some of the most relevant technology cases all over the Europe. To mention just a few, TNOs in the Netherlands, RISE in Sweden, what Bloom Renewables is doing in Switzerland, are doing all over the Europe. So there's vast lignocellulosic resources. Some of them are mentioned here, and there's, as mentioned, not just in Slovenia but also broader, a strong pull to have bio-based plastics, resins, composites, monomers. So everything what Sabina has presented before, beyond the energetic and fuel exploitations, which is actually, let's say, the poorest, in my opinion, the poorest form of biorefining, because the added value is little to none. In a lot of cases, there's a lot of also greenwashing involved. And when we're looking at second generation or even other next generation sugars and lignin, that's the biorefining that should be oriented towards materials and towards chemicals. But for this, you need the fractionation, the primary existing bottleneck that we have. Please move forward. So we basically had a biorefinery already in Slovenia, so let's say a long time ago. But in this case, this was and still is considered a classical pulp and paper company. But the advantage of this is that if you have any kind of fractionation in place, you can tend to the undervalorized fraction, be it kraft lignin, being lignosulfonate. And of course, this has been strategic in recent years. It's been quite clear that there will be no business case without valorizing lignin also properly, meaning not for energetic purposes, but rather for resource purposes. Please move forward. So this is a bit outdated, but we've had quite some projects developed, then implemented in Slovenia and internationally, meaning cross-cutting, road mapping, gap analysis performing projects. But there's been a quite dire lack of, let's say, hands-on technological processes that would look into the fractionation of biomass and then the utilization in various value chains. So, for example, applause that you have written down is one such example. We had a lot of activities in cell cycle, but again, mostly developing or improving value chains for various bio-based chemicals and materials. Please move forward. Okay, so just to give an example, because 𝐒𝐤 or cell cycle was a, let's say, flagship program of about 6 million with vast consortium and looking at in many value chains, starting with the lignocellulosics or specific fractions. It was looking at diverse sectors such as paper and board, chemical, construction, automotive, textile, and of course, at the end of the day, also energy. But again, looking at fractionation was something that was, even within this program, actually pinned down as one of the key bottlenecks to make more material pass, because it doesn't help you if you have a pool in a company for a specific cellulose-based chemical or product, but on the other hand, you have to buy cellulose coming from another continent or somewhere else. Okay, move forward, please. So we can skip this. These are the value chains that are basically that were basically explored. So from one, you can pass these slides, please. Can you please move on? Yeah, also further. Yeah, please further on. Next. Yeah. So what this slide basically illustrates, and this has been expanded, that there's a lot of companies, and this again would stress my point and reiterate the point from before. There's a lot of companies which are interested in various bio-based products and materials and chemicals, but none of the companies here actually have, except maybe for Pulp and Paper Institute, have at a scale process to deliver high quality lignin and cellulose or derivatives thereof, for example, sugars, furans, or hemicelluloses, basically rather defined materials to be either functionalized and applied in composites or converted to chemicals and then implemented in step polymerization materials like polyesters, polyamides, and so on. And also for this, you have to implement it as locally as possible. It's not always possible, but I'm happy to say that over the years, let's say a couple of years or 3 years, there's been a lot of direct contact also with chemical and materials companies all over Europe, looking into bio-based sectors, and with them it was possible to expand the value chains that we have prepared. Okay, maybe move forward. Okay, this is a general scope of what was basically developed within the project. So a lot of innovations, patents, and I would say the key result was this drive to establish something at a scale of, let's say, 0.1 to 1 ton throughput capacity to fractionate lignocellulosic biomass in an organosolv type treatment that we presently have only in, as mentioned before, TNO, RISE, and in Leuna, operated by Fraunhofer. But nonetheless, having the flexibility on the feedstock side and the flexibility on the product side is something that is extremely valuable. And even if you have something like that deployed in a kind of breadboard fashion, meaning that it's not containerized yet, which Luca mentioned initially, of course, the main idea would be to be possible to transport such a fractionation, let's say, to various locations, the primary locations of biomass resource, but nonetheless, even to have it at a scale at present would benefit the territorial needs in development of bio-based materials substantially. Okay, please move forward. And this is the challenge that we presently have, and we are desperately trying to tackle. So we have a lot of products actually at the TRL level of 5 to 6, but you need this intermediate scale infrastructure. Basically, you need to have upstream, downstream, and fractionation unit to tend to delivering high quality cellulose, lignin, and hemicellulosic, majorly sugars and furanics, and of course to be able to employ this in a flexible manner for a diverse spectrum of biomasses, meaning compositions, sizes, and also resources. And this will of course help developing new value chains, not at the scale that we had in, for example, cell cycle, where at least for the higher quality products, the limit was under a kilo. So this would, of course, elevate this 1 or 2 orders of magnitude upwards. Okay, next slide. This is a kind of illustration, schematic. Some of it was basically already presented by Sabina before, and it's showing what can be done with lignin, with cellulose. Of course, we would be looking at more, let's say, the least energetic exploitations. In some instances, when you have low quality and diverse biomass feedstocks, of course, biochar, bio oils, or even ethanol or methanol are something to consider. but retaining as much carbon in your product as possible, as well as going toward chemicals and materials, is something to be tackled. And this is actually what we are trying to develop right now in let's say, close proximity of Ljubljana, if you can say so, in the one of the coal revitalization regions around Velenje. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. We're really trying to put our best effort into this, but there's also a lot of logistic and non-technical issues to be breached. Okay, next slide. These are some reference cases, and as mentioned before, the one that is in Leuna is our main reference case. Ideally, it would be mobile, right, like shown with the Linde case there, but this is for now quite a challenge. And also the timeline is rendered shorter and shorter. So for now, given the allocation of funds, we just would have a little over the 2 years period to put it all together. Next slide. So yeah, in fact, this could be one of the first still pilot or pilot to demo scale Slovenian biorefineries in Velenje region. Presently, we're mostly tackling the administrative hurdles rather than technical, but if all goes well, the technological challenges have mostly been resolved at a smaller scale, and equipment is, let's say, shortlisted. So the question is whether the administrative hurdles could be breached. And yeah, I mean, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Blaž. And actually, by mentioning that these hurdles can be very strong as the, let's say, legislation, financing, is something that we will be tackling in our day 3 of our webinar. And it is very important. You mentioning the TRL 5 to 6, it is known as the it is known as the value of debt.
Yes, but in our case, unfortunately, it's not so much financial or legislative, but rather administrative. And this is what is sometimes very frustrating.
Nevertheless, it took some years, you know, to arouse interest also of let's say of the public funding.
Yes.
So this is yeah, it's not just administrative, but it is the, let's say, the risks involved, yeah, all kinds of. And another thing, another takeaway message that I really appreciate that was when you mentioned the fractionation of industrially relevant quantities, is mentioning very strongly the competition for resources. So this is something which is something new to many of the attendees, maybe as well. That the byproducts, not just that they are becoming a valuable resource, but there's actually a price on it, on those, competition for those. And it's not very easy to get together industrially relevant quantities, not even in a country, as I said in my first sentence today, I think, in a country with rich in woody, so main lignocellulosic biomass. So many takeaway messages, and thank you very much for this. Now I'm looking to the comments, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there are none. So I think, first of all, I would like to congratulate the 60 participants for surviving this first day. I know, we all know that this is going to be a very intensive day in terms of very rich information, not easy to digest. We acknowledge that. For this reason, as I mentioned, we will also make available the recordings so that you will have an opportunity to look through through those in peace. more slowly maybe as well. More importantly, this is what was needed in order to follow for the days 2 and 3 of our webinar. So I really warmly invite you to turn on 2 o'clock tomorrow again. We'll be seeing the showcases, applying the principles and technologies that were presented today, as I said, in a very condensed way, in a very interesting and actually successful business cases. So I am finishing today's webinar with this by thanking you all for attending, and hopefully to meet you again on the day 2 tomorrow on the showcases.